Hello and welcome to another video. Now, last week, I recorded Swedish pickled herring. Now, pickled herring is great and all, but it goes really, really well with a Swedish drink called Aquavit. So today we're going to make that. Aquavit is sort of the quintessential celebration drink in Sweden. It is drank at midsummer, Yule, you name it. Pretty much any celebration will have it, and it comes out of a sort of digestive tradition of herbal drinks. Swedish snaps, if you will, comes out of a medicinal tradition, and so most of the Swedish snaps recipes started off as medicines. And one of the primary medicines was effectively to help with digestion after a heavy meal. Aquavit comes out of that area. Now, there are tons of different ways to make this, but the primary flavor is that of caraway. Caraway is cumin in Swedish. Don't confuse that with cumin. I did that for years. They're in fact, they share the same word in Swedish, but they're of course very, very different flavors. Also, typically dill is used, fennel, and then typically an assortment of sweeter spices. So we're going to go ahead and use some of these today. So for the ingredients, for the vodka, I've chosen this 360 vodka. It is an American vodka that is relatively mid-range. Now, if you're making fruit-infused vodkas, you don't have to pay attention so much because the fruits will mellow almost any vodka out. But for herb-infused ones, having something that's a little bit nicer and a little bit smoother tends to be noticeable in the final product. Then I have a sprig of dill, and we'll go ahead and steep the sprig of dill straight in the vodka. And then we have our dry spices. I have 3 cardamom pods, 4 little pieces of Pomeranz shallot. You could use orange peel for this or lemon peel. I have 1 nice large star anise, 2 cloves. Somewhere there, I have, here are the cloves. I have a small, maybe teaspoon or so of black peppercorns, a tablespoon or so of, maybe that's half a teaspoon. Let's say half a teaspoon of peppercorns, a tablespoon or so of whole coriander, a tablespoon or so of whole fennel, and at least 2 tablespoons of cumin. No, it's not cumin. Cumin, which is caraway, and 6 pieces of allspice. And these flavors will kind of supplement and sweeten up the flavor of the caraway here. So the next step is we're going to steep the dill in the vodka for about a day. I've already done that step here, but we'll come back with the result of that and then do the next step. So here we have this vodka, which has been steeping for a day with the dill, and it will have picked up a strong dill flavor. Now, you could also use maybe a teaspoon or 2 of dill seeds and just put them in the dry spice mixture, but in Northern Europe, it's often easier to get fresh dill weed than it is dill seeds. So you can use either approach if you like. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to roast these spices in a pan until they become fragrant. And then we'll cool them down and steep them in the vodka after we take out the dill. So I have this pan on medium-low heat. I've added these spices and I'm going to pop open these cardamom pods and just add the seeds directly. And it's fine if the inner pith of cardamom gets in there. I haven't ever seen a recipe for aquavit with cardamom added, but Swedes love cardamom and festive things. And so I figure, why not? Looks like I have 4 cardamom pods here. And we're going to go ahead and roast these for maybe 15 or 20 minutes until they become really fragrant, and then I'll pour them out of the pan. So now it's been a couple of minutes and I'm really starting to smell the aroma of these spices, and I'm going to let it go just a little more, but I think we're getting really close. And when dry roasting spices like this, it is important to keep stirring it. So that, you know, stuff on the bottom doesn't burn and stuff on the top gets roasted too. Okay, I think that's good. So I'm going to pour this back into my dish here. And feeling the temperature here, these aren't too hot, so I've poured from here into a measure, and I'm just going to go ahead and, well, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pour this vodka, since I've taken the dill out, back in here, and I'll use a folded paper to put these spice mixtures in. The one that may be a little tricky is going to be the star anise. And it would be helpful if I turn off my burner, but I'll put the star anise in, star anise in first. And then we just pour the vodka in. And then I'll show you how to get the spices in. All right, I'll be right back with the paper for the spice. Now the simplest way to do this, you have a couple ways. First, we could make a funnel and just dump everything in. But another way is we can take the paper and we can fold it lengthwise. And this is, of course, a trick almost all of you have learned in chemistry class. And then we just dump, let's say, 1/3 of the spices into the middle, lift it up, and using our hand as a guide, and now just basically dump it in. Very easy. Let's just do it with the whole rest. And so now this is going to take another 1 or 2 weeks, and every day or so we'll just shake it like this so that the spices get mixed around, and we'll eventually notice that the color will change and the flavor will change, and then we will strain it and put it back in the original vodka bottle. So now it's been about a week. If we look at this, we're going to see that the color has changed, and the flavor will have changed multiple times in this time. Putting this back in the bottle, after this is done, the flavors will continue to mellow and influence each other over the next couple weeks. But even, 3, 4, 5 days later, after you put the spices in, you can strain them out, put them back in the bottle, and just let them continue to develop. So what we're going to do here is we're going to run it through a fine mesh strainer and then pour it back into the original vodka bottle. And then I'll do a taste test now and discuss a little bit of the ways the flavors will continue to evolve as it sits in the bottle going forward. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to run this through a fine mesh strainer. Now, a fine mesh strainer is not perfect. If you're going to expect this to last for months, then you want to put it in, you want to run it through a coffee filter. The fine mesh strainer may leave some small particles in that may impart a bitterness over time. So there we go. And now we will pour this back into the vodka container. I've tasted this a few times during the process, and so this won't be quite as much as we took out, but it should be pretty close. During the development here, the flavors went from being a pretty harsh caraway flavor to being a little more rounded. And as this sits in the bottle, it will continue to develop a slightly more rounded flavor over time. But again, if you want it to last more than a couple of weeks, then you probably want to run it through a coffee filter. Although in this particular case, just a visual inspection, I don't see much in the way of particles that got through. So maybe that's enough. I don't know. Might be fine. So here we have it, our homemade aquavit. Now traditionally, aquavit would be served cold in a schnapps glass, maybe like refrigerator temperature. I don't have a proper schnapps glass. I am going to use a brandy sniffer, which is maybe not perfect, but it will give me a good sense of the complexity of the flavor. So for the taste test, I'm just going to pour a little into this brandy sniffer, and we'll go from there. And now for the taste test. It certainly smells good. Well, the caraway certainly comes through nicely, as does the dill and the fennel. But what I really like about this recipe is that you get an overall complexity from all of the other seasonings that really, really goes nicely together. This is definitely something I would make again. Yeah, definitely. Besides, now I have something to drink with my pickled herring. Anyway, tack så mycket. Thanks everyone for watching. Bon appetit, and see you next week.